Hey, how are you? I was just swinging there for a second there, playing some fancy jazz chords. This lesson we're going to talk about another aspect of the jazz blues connection, which is harmony. Last time our discussion centered on rhythm and talking about the difference between the boogie shuffle feel, hard driving kind of barroom rock and roll, and jazz, which is ting, 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 tat, ting, right? So this time we know what the feel is, and now we're going to talk about taking the standard dominant chord harmony that's sort of a basic trademark in blues and building on it to create chords that are more typical of the jazz style. Now, blues, as you know, is based on dominant chords, dominant seventh chords, key of C, C7, F7, G7. So listen to down-home blues, a guy playing a guitar all by himself, and you're going to hear nothing but dominant seventh chords. It might be something like, right? Everything I played there was based on the dominant seventh, which consists of four notes: root, third, fifth, seventh. And you can arrange those in any order. But it's a triad plus the minor seventh. Now, jazz and blues kind of started out together, and then they went their separate ways. And one thing that happened was down-home blues, as I just played, was kind of a rural style of music. It was common out in the countryside. And some of the great early stars of blues, like Blind Lemon Jefferson, were guys that grew up on the farm, Jazz, on the other hand, was urban music, started in downtown New Orleans, and as it expanded throughout the U.S. and eventually the world, it remained a city style. It was uptown. It was sophisticated. Talk about uptown, we're talking about getting away from the downtown area where you first get off the train from the country, and you go uptown, things get a little slicker. The clothes get better, people are fancier, more sophisticated. So the harmony of jazz kind of reflects that. And so what you hear in jazz is, instead of limiting yourself to the dominant seventh chord, we start to add tones to the seventh foundation. First tone we add is the ninth. The ninth is the octave of the second, right? And we break down all chords by their comparison to the major scale. There's C major. There's C with that flatted seventh, dominant seventh, which reflects the sound of the dominant chord. 1, 3, 5, 7. And then above the octave, I go one step, and there's the ninth, 8 and 9. So there's the arpeggio of the dominant ninth chord. Now, of course, when you play chords on the guitar, you don't play it in order like that. You break it down and rearrange it. So here's some typical ninth chord voicings that you may already be familiar with. C9. Another voicing of C9. Notice that doesn't have the root, but we don't need the root because the bass player is playing the root, right? Here's another one here. It's a chord that Freddie King used on Hideaway. It's a really cool ninth chord. Here's another version that only differs in one of the inside notes, but it's the same chord voicing, just rearranging a little bit. Then I can play something like this. That sounds a little jazzier because it highlights the sound of the ninth. Another way. Now, the next extension beyond the ninth is the 13th. 13th is the octave of the sixth. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then up to the 13th. Now, when you build extended chords, you don't have to include all the notes, of course. You pick and choose as long as you get the essential ones in there. So a 13th chord, there's a ninth chord, there's a 13th. I just tacked that note up on top. Another common voicing of the 13th chord, more compact there. I can put the root on top. Kind of a cool sound. Here's another way to finger that same chord. puts the root on the second string, which can be useful in certain keys where you kind of run out of room on the neck. Right? So the 13th is a very sophisticated sounding chord. As we add more extensions, the chords get denser, they get a little bit more dissonant, and they start to suit the style of jazz because it's that sophisticated uptown sound. Right? Now, along with extended chords,